me ask you guys this. There's so many different personalities right now between you got AP, which is like the cowboy. You've got Anderson, who is I want to say somewhat of the bad guy, the bad persona uh, that you could look up to. Sort of a J Law vibe kind of going on. And then you've got Jett, who's just the golden boy right now, who's a
Yeah.
little bit rough around the edges. Do you think that there's a individual that people really just want to see fail like to the utmost? I know sometimes in the chat it seems like people are somewhat 50-50 there between Jett, but I feel like most people just love Jett to pieces no matter what. So is there a bad guy this season?
In the 450 class or 250 class? Because you'd have to go with Freeze as the bad guy always. So who supersedes him?
True, true.
Hold on, pause, real quick. Did you guys see that there was somebody walking around with a petition at Glendale to get Freeze kicked out?
No, that's
Well,
funny.
I am gonna find you the picture. There was somebody walking around, I'm not kidding, with a clipboard in hand and a pen walking up to people, asking them to sign it as a petition to kick Freeze.
What a
Really
waste of
crazy.
time. What
Yeah,
a
I
waste
was
of
like,
time.
why would you do that? If anything, like, at least it keeps things interesting, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
If
It's just
anything, go around and collect money and split it and give it to the prize purse of the top privateer. If you're going to take
yeah,
time out of your day to go do something, be productive instead of something stupid like that.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
so
But,
weird.
Johnny, going to what you were saying, and Pierre just hit it. What I was going to elaborate on what Pierre's comment was, and then he went right down my thread of thought. I believe that Jett is elevating the sport because people want to come see him. Now, don't start blowing up the chat room that I'm a nut hugger on Jett. Please listen to me. I'm talking about the idea of
You and
the
your macaroons.
the marketing growth, right? We saw it. Let's go back a couple generations. We saw it with McGrath. McGrath brought people to the stadium. You cannot deny that. Now, there's no way to quantify it, but there's no way we could deny that. To me, Ken Roxon was the next guy that did that. He's in GQ magazine. He's got perfume companies. He has Bretland watch.
Mhm.
We have not seen that level. No disrespect to Dunge. Dunge had hair cuttery, earbuds, and Target. That's a pretty solid trio, right?
Especially Target.
But then look at Bretland. It's like, all right, we're going to take retail and we're going to take it up a notch and then put it on steroids. You've got a young
I don't even
20
know what
year.
that is.
Say it again, Johnny.
I don't even know what kind of retail that is.
What, the Bretland?
Yeah.
Well, you'd be looking at like a Macy's, or you'd be looking at a high-end jewelry store to go buy
Mm.
a Bretland watch versus, and again, we want all new eyeballs, but you have Ken Roxon, the German, the GQ guy, literally in GQ magazine, showing up to press conferences in a tailored suit.
Mhm.
With that came the Bretland watches out. And now, it's not by accident that Roxon is bringing those types of sponsors into a quote unquote satellite team. And then unfortunately, Roxon gets hurt, and then we don't see that proliferation, the kind of that upward trajectory that we saw with McGrath. McGrath brings in Mazda, first car company that we ever had in our sport. He brings in Bud Light when we weren't allowed to have alcohol. He gets his own 18 wheeler, right? He just stacked it. He did 1-800 collect. He did stuff that we had never seen before. Then you have Roxon shows up, and I love what Roxon said. He defended. You guys are mocking me because I show up in a 3-piece tailored suit, and you say you want to elevate the sport, but we're doing nothing to elevate the sport. And
Right.
because he did it, it gets on ESPN clips, right? Look at this guy. It's kind of like McGregor showing up in a tutu, right? You had Roxon going the other direction. He went the polar opposite of what the image is and got mocked for it. And I love that he didn't mince words, typical German. He's like, look, dude, you want to up the sport? Let's up the sport. Let's make it look professional, whether that's him and Astafin or whatever. Props to him. He gets hurt. He starts to lose his luster. Now we have Jett coming in, donuts, fan zone, quad lock. I mean,
Yeah, I was wondering what watch he was wearing when I was at the press conference because I'm
Yeah.
like, man, you're in moto gear, but that sucker looks very, very nice.
And
and
clean, yeah.
and that just doesn't happen because you're just a good dirt bike rider. It's the marketability. Props to Lucas Myrtle. It's the donut deal through Feld, and a lot of people don't realize this. When they
Yeah,
go
I
to a
was
city, they go and they find a donut store And if they can't find a donut store that has a high enough quality of donuts, they don't have the Jetson donuts at the race.
Oh,
I mean,
Well-
that's keeping that quality up, not just saying we're worried about turning $4 donuts.
It's the whole rising tide scenario,
Mhm.
right?
yeah.
I was walking around the pits with Davey Coombs, and he was telling me just how much money this kid is actually making. He said that this kid is doing incredibly, incredibly well. And we went over to his fan zone, and $2,000, they got this big old thing set up for these guys to be there. And what he was talking about with MX Sports and Supercross was MX Sports is trying to make Supercross be a little bit smaller, and then Supercross is trying to make MX Sports be a little bit bigger. And what I mean by smaller is, if you've noticed, Feld has been way more lenient besides on Stewart's stuff. If you watched my news show, I talked about how Stewart got his show taken down because of a copyright from Feld, which I thought was funny, but it instantly got put back up. They're being much more lenient about it because they only have Feld. They only have a 3-hour window on a Saturday night, basically, for where they show this sport. How do you get people talking about all this stuff? And that's why I feel like our community is so important. Yes, maybe it's a little egotistical in a small, I'm going to say very small percentage, is these shows are very important because it gives us an outlet to keep talking about racing during the week before the race actually happens, because Feld only has a 3-hour window.